This is Progress Culture. Progress Culture is a weekly happening where master drummer Paul F. Murphy and I share live improvised music and impromptu conversations with people from various fields and expertises about community, value, art, science, freedom, and progress for all. We are excited to share it all with you, so have a listen and see what's going on this week on Progress Culture. Now, let's get into the show. But first, let's hear some music. Hello, my friends. Dominic Fragman and Paul Murphy here from Sonic Spirits.
Hello.
Yeah, doing the Progress Culture thing, but we're doing the Fireside music chat thing. So this is one of my favorite things I get to do. Yeah, I get to sit here and talk music with Paul. Paul, last episode, spoke about some of the teachers that he's had in his life and how important they were, not only in the development of his career and the directions that he was able to take, but also in sort of illuminating to him what being an artist was about, or in pursuing self-expression and those sorts of things. And he has been the most significant factor in my life, and as well as Jere, to share those kinds of ideas and keep me on. You know, I tweak out a lot. And sometimes,
I think we all do.
I don't know if I'm always going in the right direction. And Paul has, I remember when I met you and I first started studying with you, and you told me that I can get you where you're trying to go. What I told you where I was trying to go is I wanted to be a professional musician. I want to play gigs. I want to make a living, and that's that. And he said, I can give me 3 years. And I said, no problem. So here we are going on 14 years.
Right. Yep.
And doing something far beyond what I had perceived was even an option, and so I guess I don't know if that's a good segue or not, but what I guess I wanted to talk about was to give you a chance to, I don't know, what is music? What is important about music, and why do you play how you play, and think it's important that it's shared with people?
Well, I think basically, number one, I love music, and I grew up knowing, having, and being surrounded by it. I mean, in the small apartment that I grew up in, there was a piano, guitar, and my grandmother could play piano. My mother was a violinist, and my uncles that were living there, they could play piano as well and sing. So I was surrounded by that and grew up trying to play the guitar and the piano. And I ended up at like about 6 years old, 5.5, 6 years old, on a Christmas with a basically toy set of drums, but it was like a little beyond the toy set of drums. Mm-hmm. And I started playing those by myself and also with whoever in the house was playing.
All right.
And I just loved doing it. And so then eventually I ended up, being told that I needed a teacher. And I was being told that by everyone there. So I eventually had a teacher, and that turned into many teachers. And the experiences just grew. I mean, I was listening to all types of music, classical, what have you, jazz, blues. And especially back then, most of it was on the radio or on a cranked up stereo that, cranked up the RCA and put the disc on. And so going forward throughout my life, I mean, I ended up naturally, when I was in my teenage years, I was playing, rock and roll, or what I thought was rock and roll. And I played with, quite a few different groups, especially in the DC area. But also, at that point in time, I also was asked by Billy Taylor to play with him, and he was Duke Ellington's bass player. So, besides the teachers that I had, which was mainly classical, Joseph Levitt, and then a Dawson Bug, and Dawson happened to be Louis Bellson's roommate in New York. And Louis happened to be the drummer on the first of the Tonight shows back then. So I got to meet a lot of different people, and I got to study with a lot of different people. And I just kept, moving forward in what I thought was creativity and happiness as well. And I finally, got to play with cats like Jimmy Lyons.
What was that when you say what I thought was creativity, is there a way that you can articulate
Well,
what
I
that
mean,
is?
yeah, naturally everybody gets told sort of how to play, mm-hmm. or what to play, or what you should be playing. And that happened along the way. But there were also points where, I mean, when I first sat down with Gene Krupa, Gene didn't tell me how to play. Gene actually handed me the sticks and said, play.
Right.
And I was banging on the back of a chair. And he listened to it. And he smiled. And he talked to me about drumming and music, along with many other incidents like that with many different teachers. And that showed me that, you know what? You're tremendous, and I want to imitate everything you do, and I'm trying to imitate it the best that I can. But you know what? I don't want to play like you because I don't want to sound like you.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried to develop my own concept and style. And, you know, hopefully I've developed some of it by now.
Do you remember any parts along the way where that was like how it was forming? Or like, not necessarily technically how it was forming, but the concepts of it in your mind, you know, like, then I have to approach it like
Actually,
this.
the concepts, I mean, this may sound strange to some people. I'm sure it does. But actually, the concepts, I mean, they came from just like that. They came from outside.
Mm.
They actually did. I mean, I'd be practicing on a drum set. And I'd be practicing along, you know, certain things that everybody practices that studies drum. And then I'd go into soloing and playing. And then right in my mind, I mean, there'd be a voice that would just come out and go this way. And I would change something. And in that little split second of time, when I was finished playing, I would remember that exact moment in time and space when I changed something that I was doing, and that something was something that I hadn't done before.
Mm.
And that's happened more than once, but it didn't happen like 1,000 times, but it did happen. And I mean, one time when it happened, which I really haven't really told anybody really about other than I think you and my wife, Jere, is that when I was playing, I actually felt like a spirit behind me and a finger go into my spine. And at that point in time, it actually was either I said it to myself, or I made it all up, or it said it to me, and it said, you need to play this way. You don't need to play in these groups anymore. You need to play this way, and you need to start forming your own music. And that's when I started. I was at that point in time, I was playing actually with two groups. I was playing with a rock group in D.C., whom I love very much. They were all friends. And I was playing with Billy Taylor. And right at that point in time, I mean, is when Billy told me that I should do the same thing and I should move to San Francisco.
Right.
And that's what I did, and I started, you know, my own group there and played, you know, all over the West Coast and did the best I could do with it. And then, like I say, I was all of a sudden introduced myself to Jimmy Lyons, and eventually I ended up in Jimmy's band. But that being said, when I had moved to New York, living in a car, I also ended up working as a manager in Rashid Ali's club. And Rashid ran the bar, and I ran the door. And that was 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So I not only got to hear a whole lot of music, I got to meet a whole lot of musicians, and I got to sit in and play with a lot of people that I eventually got to sit in and play with, like, say, a Walter Davis Jr. Or Clifford Jordan or Rand Blake, cats like that. And, like, I got to hang out for many, many nights with Philly Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones, Max Roach, Sonny Murray. And one of the people that actually influenced me a great deal was Andrew Sorrell. And that's not to leave out Rashid Ali.
Right. I mean, for those who might not be aware, Andrew Sorrell was part of some of the groundbreaking groups that Cecil Taylor had put together early on in his career.
Right.
And Cecil Taylor is considered one of the founding fathers of the avant-garde movement in jazz, and has been called this century's Beethoven. I mean, the last time I saw him, the brand new Whitney Museum in New York was dedicating the entire 5th floor to him, and I got to be there with him for all that stuff. But that's right. Andrew. Right. And Rashid is, well, I mean, Interstellar Space is probably one of the most pivotal albums, significant in
definitely
composition.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, groundbreaking, and that is these are the people that Paul is buddying up with and spending time with and playing with and seeing every day.
Yeah, and I mean, Train changed his style of music.
Yeah.
At that point in time.
Right.
I mean, he stepped away from a very successful unit. Mm-hmm. And moved in an entirely new direction, which you don't hear written about very much or spoken about very much, even though quite a few records were produced of his new style and sound.
It's funny because coming through the music scene in general, let's just say, at the age that I am, and coming through and hearing what people have to say about some of those things, not only is it not really written about, it's almost like the musicians will talk about Coltrane, about how fantastic and superhuman and amazing everything is, but they stop and they cut it off at that point. It's like you hit Ascension and Interstellar Space, and that is just somehow that this person who was generating groundbreaking sounds and music and significant compositional breakthroughs and technical prowess, now all of a sudden is just a noisemaker.
Yeah, and Ascension, which was a very groundbreaking album. I mean, I had the no other way to put it than luxury of having Dewey Johnson play in my group in New York. And he was lead trumpet on Ascension. And Freddie Hubbard, of course, was on Ascension as well. And Freddie was supposed to be on the last record that Larry Willis and I did, except he passed right before the session. And, that being said, another great part of what I consider what I do is, along with my wife, Jere, the poet, because not only the music is moving forward, but the messaging and the spirituality is also being brought forth, explained, and spoken in the spoken word. And that also was a great part of jazz, from the beginning of jazz to wherever you want to put it. Mm-hmm. But you don't hear that much about that. But that actually was very strong and took place all the way throughout history. So when you and I get to perform and use the poetry of Jere, it puts a whole different spin, sound, voice, as well as a knowledge that's going forward. And I don't see that happening a great deal anymore. And it was happening also with myself and Larry Willis and with you in that group as well. And I think it's really important that it continues to happen and move forward and take place. And I'm just very, very lucky. Believe me, at 72, I'm very lucky to be here and have been supported by a Tommy Luganville, TechPort, and Southern Maryland Loves You. I mean, I can't say enough about how I feel about that. I mean, otherwise, I don't know where I would be.
Same.
Because it hasn't been, real easy. All of the music. I mean, it's been great, the music. But the history of it's been a little rough here and there.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember when you were in New York and I told you to go see Cecil. And you were in a cab with Cecil and we were on the phone.
When I met Cecil, I was playing at a concert, and the concert was dedicated to him. The leader of the group was a 50-piece improvisers orchestra, and the leader of the group was a bass player in one of his former bands for many years, William Parker, and he had dedicated the concert to him. And I met Cecil that night. Cecil showed up, and when I came off the stage, he was standing there with sunglasses on, a fur hat, and a fur coat that went all the way to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like 83 years old, and he looked at me and he said, "And who are you, Mr. Percussionist?" I said, "I'm the guy that's been leaving CDs in your door for the past I don't know how many weeks. I'm trying to come over and hang out with you. What are you doing?" So we got started that way, but yeah.
Yeah, but you got to hang with Cecil like every day for quite a long time.
Yeah, it was. I touched every book, every picture, I did the dishes, I made the tea, I lit the cigarettes. Bought the milkshakes and the champagne.
Well, Cecil was quite an artist.
Cecil was tremendous.
Beautiful cat, man. Good friend.
those kinds of people as you were, so many, and across, it wasn't just sort of the masters of the avant-garde. I mean, like you said, even with Louis Bellson and Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa and Max Roach.
Yeah.
Was there was there things that stick out about the significance of music and pursuing it in that search for originality type of thing that anybody would, that you can remember that the way they articulated it? Because I think that the reason why I asked is, I'm interested, but I also know it's elusive. Like the description of any of it. From the people that I've experienced it, like a Caesar.
I would say this.
There was no real explanation.
I would say this, and this is from grouping all of them together as one. But I know that the very first time that I spoke to Rashid Ali, Rashid said to me, he said, "Well, Murphy," he said, "what's in your heart?" And I said, "Love." And he said, "Yeah, that's right, brother." And he hugged me. And he said, "We're all like that." Now, we're all like that. That sounds just like a sentence in grammar, but it's not. It's a very deep, deep meaning, full thing that the only way I know how to describe it, and the only way it was ever described to me by a Philly Joe Jones, even if he was speaking in his Count Dracula voice, or the other people that you mentioned, is that it's an understanding and a learning from the spiritual world. And every one of those people that I've mentioned all have said and agreed with that to me. Before I brought that up to them, they brought that up to me. Each and every one of them. Even though each and every one of them may have talked about music and art and the development of art in a little different direction or way, they all brought that back to that one focal point. All of them. Not one, but all of them. And I'm talking about some cats, that aren't that easy to talk to. All right? There were some of those cats that, cat, I don't know, it's, this cat, that cat, wow. But once you spoke to them and they knew what you were, they didn't have a problem at all. Everything was wide open. Get another shot and keep on talking. And if there's a set of drums up there, get up there and play. Let's hear it. And there's some cats didn't get along with each other, and some cats, get along with everybody. And I remember playing one night in New York, and I got off the stage and was walking towards the bar, and this big guy got up, grabbed me, picked me up in the air, hugged me, and said, "Man, you really know this shit." And that was Elvin Jones.
Yeah.
So, I knew who Elvin was, but I didn't know Elvin.
Right.
until that moment. So in answer to your question, I think that you yourself have also seen that part of what you know and part of what you play isn't just bing bang out of this book.
No, nowhere near it.
You know, and I think also with some of the conversations you've had with Jere about many different topics, I think he'd also agree that, you know, spirituality is involved.
I think it's 100%. I mean, I'm even leaning. There's the thing that Jere says about the wisdom, the beauty, and understanding are in our minds.
Right.
And this is echoed in numerous philosophies, religions, spiritual orientations in Buddhism and
right.
yogic and Vedic things, where they speak about how, well, that connection, right, to, it's not just necessarily that it's from within you, it's so far within you that it's outside of you, to the point where it's the connection to the ancestors, the relatives. And when I say relatives, I mean that those which are not human but are still our relation, because we all came from, even if you want to talk about it like it's a Big Bang, the Big Bang, everything in the Big Bang that came out of the Big Bang,
the same place.
it came from the same place. So
Yep.
I mean, that's a Native American concept of everything being relatives. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that what I have found is that which is inside of you, which then touches on that which is outside of you, is the place where this thing that's really difficult to articulate, that seems to be come at you as more like what you told me in the beginning, play you. Where's Dominic? Play Dominic.
Right.
Now what the hell does that mean? I don't know, and there's no real other way to discover it except for putting in a lot of time and focus and devotion and meditation on it. And for me, those spiritual aspects have sort of brought themselves to me, and I've benefited from them so much in a way that it seems to me I'm leaning even more towards it's all coming from that. It doesn't have to cross-reference the books and the traditional knowledge and nomenclature and the professional situations that, you know. I mean, I was a history major in school, and from all of the things that I've studied, especially in particular to the drums and what you've taught me, there's a very significant focus on that which has come before you, and and being informed by it to create something or to push the envelope, right? And this is what people have talked about at our events and beyond. And I feel more and more like I'm pushing back on that. Like, I don't know how much it has to cross-reference all that other stuff, because I see the significant results and manifestations of focusing more and more on that part.
All right.
So
on you.
Yeah, and
your heart.
Exactly.
What you feel, what you see, what you know, what you're going to know, what you're trying to know, what you're trying to learn. And I mean, that's all coming out on what you just played on that guitar. And also on what you played on the drums before that.
Yeah.
But you've been playing both of those instruments for a while. You know?
I started playing guitar first.
Yeah.
When I was little, and I think by the time I was 12 or something, maybe even a little bit earlier, I sort of knew that I was a drummer, or that's what I thought then. The way that people reacted to what I played on the drums,
right?
The I had a certain competence beyond what I was doing on guitar at that time, and I kind of just went, "Oh, I'm a drummer. I'll just let this be for now." But really, what I am is enamored with sound.
Yeah, right.
I'm in love with that, you know.
Yeah, and that shows now. I mean, you're playing. That's what you need to do. Continue to play. Continue to develop.
I think part of it, you know, I spend so much time in this realm. Like we've talked about this idea of I want to be less intellectual. I'm going to bring my mind more to my heart and try not to have to describe so many things. But we are in a culture and with an intellectual climate where that is like everything hinges on your ability to articulate it. It's less and less acceptance of just the phenomenon happening. If you just do the phenomenon, it's not really. We need to know how you're doing it and all this. And it's really cumbersome to try to put it into words, all these things, because first off, the putting it into words, it sometimes doesn't go beyond like what you told me and what these people have told you. I mean, I've heard the stories you tell about dealing with Louis Bellson and Buddy Rich, and like, no, you don't need to play it like me, play it like you.
Right.
And damn, how do you do that? And what does that even mean? And the only way that it even develops meaning and that you find meaning in it, for me, was doing it every day as much as time allowed.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, that's what has to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how it develops, or that's how it's allowed to develop, or helped to develop. Mm-hmm. Because it's definitely coming from inside and outside as well. Mm-hmm. You know? And I mean, you know, the spirituality of religions, that's all great. It is. But there's many different religions. But I know that when you're standing on the planet in the middle of nowhere and you're concentrating, whether it's now or whether it's in the future or whether it's all the way 20,000 years ago, you're looking up and out. And then you're trying to bring that into yourself and into your mind and into your mind flowing into your heart. And that's when you feel at peace. And I think that music is a great extension of peace.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the times where I feel most in it are the times when I feel like I'm most whole with the moment.
Right.
And this is also one of those things that all those spiritual traditions will talk about. You know, the idea of finding, the only way to find true peace is to not concern yourself with the past and not concern yourself with the future.
Right.
The extrapolations out from the moment are only guesses, and typically can lead to expectations, attachments, and anxiety or depression. You know, you regret the past and you're worried about the future and all these things. It's like, in my regular day to day, this can be very difficult.
Oh yeah.
But in the music,
definitely,
it's when it's on and when I'm truly doing it, I am whole in that moment. And that's the interesting
well, yeah,
interesting
and you're
thing.
not only just whole in that moment. I mean, everything you can think of about yourself is in that moment. Mm. And the different part about that is, as that moment moves forward, you can definitely feel that, yes, there's this other person or people that you're interacting with making this sound, this music, but everything you are is in that. And when you're in it all the way, you can feel that there's something outside of that. So I'm not going to say what that is, that I know what it is, but I know that it exists, and I know that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's basically the center of learning.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's tough to follow there. I'll go back to the statement of music being peace, which I guess touches on the original question, which is what it means to you and the importance of sharing it, doing it this way, as far as pursuing the unique part of it for yourself, right, and your self-expression and liberation of your mind, and sharing those things as an example, like we always talk about, of the expanding what can be perceived, expanding what can be conceived, right, which also fits into the idea of peace too. And we've talked about it on the show before as well. But
and I mean, one of the pieces that we do, Prayer to the Earth, that Jere wrote, I mean, that says just about all of it. And when that's flowing with the music, there's a whole lot of interaction there. And even that interaction, other than a guitar and a drum and a saxophone, even that in a piano, even that interaction is speaking. And it's not just speaking, but you can feel that there is a presence that's on the outside of that whole thing moving. And the only thing that brings me back to is that is the center of learning, because if you're not learning anything there, you shouldn't be playing. But I mean, it's a very strong feeling that you feel. You can feel the interaction of every note, or every sound, or every word. And that, I think, to me, is part of what people describe as religion, because that is your time, your space, your opportunity to bring forth peace and betterment to mankind. Because if that's not what you're doing, it's not going to sound right. And there's a reason that happens.
I meditate every day with a part of the, whatever you want to call it, the mantra or words that I've put together that I say. Yeah. And part of that meditation is allow me to contribute to and expand the knowledge, which I may utilize and share with and for the benefit of the people, the society, the world, and the universe.
Right.
Now, if that's a delusion of grandeur or something like that, it's not even about that. It's not necessarily that anybody would ever recognize that I was doing that or have to acknowledge me for doing it. It's more that is where it comes from. That's where it feels like it's coming from.
As long as you're acknowledging it.
And that's where I want it to go. That's where the space of discovery and creation and sharing comes from. And it's what you're saying. I mean, that's why I play it.
Right. No, that's cool.
And that's why I want to share it. So.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of that? All right. Well, I think that's...
Till the next time.
Yeah, till the next time. This is Fireside Music Chats.
Yeah, man.
So, thank you. And I'm stoked every day to do this with you. So...
And me as well.
I'm looking forward to rehearsal
Jere
tomorrow.
also.
Absolutely. So,
And much thanks to Southern Maryland Loves You and TechPort.
yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful thing.
And thank you all for hanging out with us every week. Progress Culture here. You can find us on progressculture.org and sonic-spirits.com. If you ever have any ideas or want to talk to us, we are available. You can come to TechPort or you can find us online, and we'd be happy to hear from you. So do feel free to get in touch, and we hope that you come back again, and we'll see you then. Take care. Thank you all so much for being with us. We appreciate you sharing your time and consideration. Please feel free to reach out to Sonic Spirits and Progress Culture at sonic-spirits.com and progressculture.org. You can also connect with us through our sponsors at techportsomd.org and somdlovesyou.org. We'd love to hear from you if you're working on something awesome, or you have ideas for future shows, or you'd just like to say hello. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Much love. See you soon.